is happening. Their fears that getting rid of Rigathi Gachagua was to weaken him. And like I always repeatedly say, there were several MPs who said, we are not out here to just impeach you, we're here to finish you. And I actually put in quotes this, I bracketed rather the statement, the phrase, we're here to finish you, because we see the word finish in our native understanding as Kenyans is actually related to, you know, death, injury, and all this kind of thing, maiming you or anything that would cause you not to do what you're supposed to do. And what we're witnessing right now, and especially what we witnessed yesterday, against the same person who had been impeached unfairly, is now we're seeing the withdrawal of security, reinstatement of the security, and 3 days ago, they were again withdrawn. Then this attack that came around after one of the guys who actually championed in the impeachment process, which was uncalled for, the impeachment itself, which he championed. We Kenyans later on saw that there was no justifiable reason as to why they would have impeached Rigathi Gachagua, but they have been expressing their interest that we didn't want you out of whatever reasons that they had personal. And while the crowd and the voters themselves were watching these things happen, unfolding in courts, in parliament, and the silence of the State House, Kenyans, like I always say, they're not daft. They knew. And you see, when Kenyans reject you, they reject you in totality. Just the way they rejected what the former President Uhuru Kenyatta was trying to present to them after 2018, and they committed themselves to a certain position. These are Kenyans from that region. Kenyans from other regions also have got a commitment. So what you're trying to say here is that it's unfortunate that this was clear and clearly targeting the life of the former deputy president, because having withdrawn security, the people who attacked, definitely, even before hearing it from the media, I knew these guys were strangers. Now,
if you listen to the locals, I mean, you know, getting to the place where you've completely, if I can bring probably Mlama in this, you've completely disrupted the burial ceremony of you know, somebody,
a family that is mourning, you're not related to.
You're not related to. You've disrupted the burial. You have destroyed the properties at the home of the deceased. And now somebody paid these goons. You look at it and Mulamba, how do you read that?
Well, firstly, it's unfortunate that Gachagua was impeached irregularly, illegitimately, and unconstitutionally, as we all know. I cannot sympathize with Gachagua because as a Gen Z, we wanted both of them gone.
Yes.
But I will not support the state to set a bad precedence of unconstitutionalism in this country, because an injustice done to Gachagua, who we did not want as deputy, would be an injustice done to someone else in the future. Would be setting a bad example that this country should not take. Because we all know the impeachment of Gachagua was state planned. Ruto was mum about it, but we know he was controlling everything. He spoke at Kondele the other day, taking jibes at Gachagua on how he did not want a deputy who is for a certain region, a deputy who perpetrates tribalism, and so on and so on and so on. We got the confirmation we needed that he was behind everything. And it is appalling that Kithure Kindiki was approved by an IEBC that does not exist in the middle of the night. The EACC had its time to approve him in the middle of the night, same as Kiare. I did not know these institutions work 24 hours. We even saw the government printing in the Kenya Gazette the impeachment of Gachagua in the middle of the night. That has never happened anywhere. If the government was this efficient with the delivery of services, Kenya would be a Singapore today. So we understand everything that has been done to Gachagua has been state planned to this very moment. And it is almost obvious to conclude that the attack on Gachagua was state sponsored. Because I have heard some theories projecting that it is possible Gachagua would have planned an attack on himself to seek sympathy. Then I ask Kenyans, why would Gachagua plan an attack on himself to attract sympathy? He already has the sympathy.
Yes.
It beats reasoning to say that Gachagua would plan an attack on himself to seek more sympathy. He already has that. He doesn't need to plan anything against himself.
And in fact, if you listen to the witnesses, they say the area MP refused to sit at the main stand, the VIP stand. He went and sat at a different place. And when he was called by one of the aspiring leaders and told, please come to the VIP stand, he refused. And he said, we are the ones who can organize war better. So,
you see, reading in the Daily Nation today, it appears the Inspector General of Police refused to comment on the entire security issue. Same as the government spokesman, Isaac Mauro, who has been parroting about everything the government is doing and not doing, and we know it is pure propaganda. They are so vocal on things that do not matter. But the security issue of a Kenyan, because now Gachagua is not a deputy president anymore, he is a Kenyan. Whether bad or good, his security is paramount. Is of paramount interest to every Kenyan. If today they come after me, anyone who knows me would come for me, whether I'm good or bad, because I have a right to life. If I am that bad, take me to court. It is unconstitutional, and it is appalling for the state to plan on how to take away Gachagua or to silence him by beating him through and taking him through disgrace and shame in almost every function he attends. Gachagua has all the time in his hands. He is no longer serving any official position. He has the time to attend any arambe, any funeral, and any event that will be organized, not only in central Kenya, in the entire country. So the government should be ready to counter what he says with facts. If Gachagua says Adani is bad, counter that with facts. If Gachagua says Chief is bad, it was not well implemented or well figured out, counter that with facts. Tell us how Chief was well figured out and why Chief is good for Kenyans. If Gachagua says President Ruto is a thief, counter that with showing us how Ruto is not a thief. Tell us why he got the Weston Hotel. Tell us why he tear gas children at Langata Primary School. Tell us why Ruto did not steal Muteshi's land. Let us be factual. If Gachagua's utterances are illogical, insensitive, and false, counter that with facts, not violence.
Isn't all these things, like the violence that was meted on him and his troop, isn't all this making him even more popular on the ground? Because I'm trying to think, okay, if this is literally just making, he's achieving what they don't want him to achieve.
They're actually helping him achieve what they don't want him to achieve. Because, like he's rightly put it, he cannot fight for a sympathy that he already has. You know, because every Kenyan witnessed what happened. Now, when you see a government that came in condemning the other government that they were tear-gassed in church, then here you are witnessing goons being sent and confirmation of the famous Subaru Outbacks. It's being declared that it was an abduction of the sitting MP of Limuru. Now, when you hear of such things, it tells you that the government knows something which is not telling Kenyans. Then again, Kenyans are still thinking and are wondering, okay, so who came up with this thing of their guys who are in the military force of Congo, Burundi, who are actually expected to be used in such, so that you're not able to identify them. You arrest them, you don't find any of their records because their records are not here. Their records are in Congo and Rwanda. And I think it's unfortunate that we're witnessing this. From an election victory that was won, and tears of joy were witnessed, that whenever I click YouTube to watch how the reception was, either by the president, the families which were gathered in his house in Karen at that time, and thanking God and glorifying God, is now almost turning out to be hypocritical, and it's sad. We're wondering as Kenyans, where are we heading to? Now, what happened in Limuru, in Kenol, during that other regime?
Yes.
We're now witnessing this in burials. People are mourning. You add tears on top of other tears, of more tears that is already shed by the mourners. What quite unfortunate was that the person who they were mourning over was also murdered. And the goons could, be seen on some clips, stamping on the coffin. Is like attempting to reach to the dead man to kill him the second time.
It's desecrating. It's an unfortunate situation.
Yes, and I must say that it's quite demeaning for the people who claim that this would be the way to go in the capacity of maybe a leader or of an MP or a CS or anyone, to say that we're also good in planning war. I mean, what war was there? There's been some drums that had been planned and hyped so that the Mount Kenya people can be demonized and become an enemy to the rest of the communities, just the way it was done in 2007. You start with some allegations of, that would actually taint the image of the people of Mount Kenya. And by 2007, they were the enemies of Kenya. And the best thing they could administer to them was these people ought to die. Because we saw the murders, what happened, and we have seen the same kind of, politics, building up. That Mount Kenya is one of the areas that are not safe at the moment, because the politics there is like led by Rigathi Gachagua is hostile, and that's why
Sheikh Khalifa of Muhuri was actually called in by the NCIC.
Yes.
Because of statements that he made concerning the Mount Kenya community in Lamu.
Yeah.
We should not have this kind of talks anytime, because if we do this, the 2027 elections are going to be very, very hot, and they might end up, if you stir fire for so long, don't be shocked if it actually burns.
Like you rightly put it, that if I put forth a fact, you can only counter it with another fact or another truth, for that matter, so that you can quash this. Now, the 2027 elections, it means that the maths of the 2027 elections, according to strategists, is that the president's, the sitting president is not really safe with the number of votes that he has at the moment. He's neither sure with the team that he has brought on board that for real they're going to be with him. And like I said here, it's until February elections at the AU. So if Raila Odinga does not succeed, he might change this whole pattern of politics we're seeing right now, because he will have to align himself with a certain formation, or he'll come up with his own.
That one is going to win.
That one is going to happen.
He has this to lose.
Yes. So if he loses the other side, politics will be different in Kenya. If he wins the other side, politics will still be different in Kenya, because the Nyanza vote, and I'm talking about the Nyanza vote, which is majority in ODM, are still waiting for the cue from the former prime minister. A cue as in, this is what we intend to do in 2027.
Yes.
And that's why they can sing every manner of songs of praise to anyone who comes around, because they're yet to make a decision. They're having the grassroots elections right now.
I've seen Kalonzo Musyoka and the Mount Kenya have already come up with a coalition, James. It looks like Kalonzo and Rigathi Gachagua are now in one park. And you also have a gentleman called Matiang'i also lurking in the dark. He says he's going to come. I remember when you guys went to the streets, when the Gen Zs were in the streets, some of them were demanding that Matiang'i comes into the pic. And now he seems to be coming into the picture. Is this a game changer?
Anyone who thinks Matiang'i is anybody's savior is deluded. Matiang'i is as bad as Ruto, as bad as Gachagua himself, and as bad as the political elite that we have in Kenya. Because Matiang'i oversaw the siphoning of public funds under the Uhuru Kenyatta administration. What did he do about it?
Yes.
Matiang'i was the Minister for Interior and Coordination when the Kemsa scandal happened. What did he do about it? Matiang'i...
What was he supposed to do with KEMSA?
I mean, he can push for this. If the president wants some people prosecuted, he can get that done. We've already seen that. We've seen presidents weaponizing corruption scandals against certain individuals when they are no longer politically right with them. Matiang'i, with his closeness to the president Uhuru Kenyatta, if he had the best interests to salvage this country, he would have pushed for the prosecution of those guys that were involved in the KEMSA scandal because he knew them. And it is alleged that David Morathe was among those guys.
Unfortunately, because he's not here to defend it.
That's why I've said it's an allegation.
Yeah, we cannot throw names, yes.
Fred Matiang'i was the Minister for Interior when the police committed excessive, brutal force on Kenyans who protested against the elections in 2017. And going forward, the police under Matiang'i were very brutal to activists and to the opposition. He is the face of evil for so many Kenyans. We've still not forgotten the case of the EBN. If we talk about the extrajudicial killings that were meted on Kenyans when Matiang'i was Minister for Interior, you remember the Rivayala killings. This is not a man we should discuss anywhere. If Matiang'i was that good, and if he was unable to redeem Kenya as the Minister for Interior, because he was like the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi is, if he was unable to redeem Kenya then the honorable thing to do, right to his conscience, was to resign. It is a marvel.
That has never happened.
It is a marvel in this country that the only man who had the right of conscience and who was true to self to the point of resigning in this country is Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And it is possible we will never have another politician as honest as he was. And it is bad. Some of these politicians want to use us and want to lie to us. In fact, they see us for some gullible electorate somewhere waiting to dish votes to me. If we were to go by facts, Matiang'i should have resigned if he was unable to tame the things I have just mentioned. He is no one's savior and no one should consider him as such. In fact, it would have
but you cannot cancel him out.
I can't.
As irrespective of the kind of picture you paint of him, you ignore him at your own peril. But because Matiang'i comes with a constituency, we have Gen Zs.
Matiang'i has no constituency. The Gen Zs do not want Matiang'i. We would rather have Okiya Omtata than Matiang'i, by far. We would rather have Okiya Omtata, a man who's been...
I remember during your demonstrations, the Gen Zs, Okiya Omtata's name did not feature anywhere.
It did.
The names that... The name that featured the most was Matiang'i.
The millennials were pushing for Matiang'i, not us, the Gen Zs, who were pro Okiya Omtata. That's why we even invited him to Uhuru Park, and he gave us a speech at Uhuru Park. The people's choice, the Gen Zs, has always been Omtata. The other day I told you that Morara has never been our choice, because we would never vote for a man who's campaigned for Ruto. Directly. Not the support you say, I'm supporting so and so from the comfort of my home. I get myself there, use my finances and my time to campaign for Ruto, knowing the devil he is, and then you want us to take you as a saint. That can never happen. So we are safer with Okiya Omtata than with Matiang'i or Morara. In fact, we are even safer with Onyonka than Matiang'i. Richard Onyonka is better than Matiang'i by far. If we really want a Kisii on that seat, I'm sorry if I'm sounding tribal, but if we really want a Kisii on that seat, we would rather have Richard Onyonka. Would you ignore Matiang'i?
Well, in the first place, Matiang'i tainted his image when he was given power. When he was the Minister for Education, he had no power. But when he was given power to wield, as the Chief Secretary, Prime Secretary, and at the same time given the very powerful docket that actually has the power to calm things in the society. The Interior Ministry, which has the police, the investigative organs under him. I think he would have done much, but he did less than would actually be allowed to go into.
So you don't believe he has a prayer in 2027?
He lacks capacity because one, in terms of integrity, in terms of character, he seems to be somebody who can get so drunk when he is powerful. I remember how he used to insult his boss, the Deputy President, then His Excellency the Deputy President William Ruto, that time current president. He could insult him in public, and that tells you if he has power, this is how he would behave. And when he was rejected in Kisii, because I hear he vowed once upon a time, his language is what brought him down. You know, his communication skill is what brought him down.
Being an authoritarian.
Leadership is not about being authoritarian and dictatorial. You are supposed to be a person who listens, but you're expected to have seen further ahead. When you're sitting with the people you lead, they expect you to tell them something new beyond what they are. Something beyond what they have presented to you. That's the character of a good leader. But when it comes to a point where what you think becomes the law, that becomes a problem.
But if you look at the Kenyan electorate, right now probably Ruto is not the most popular president we've ever had.
Yeah.
Then look at the alternatives. Raila Odinga is no longer there. He's at the AUC.
And even if he was, he's not the best.
So we have Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa, we have Matiang'i, and we have Rigiji.
Thank you.
Now, with these are and Okiya Omtata's Mlamba's favorite. If you
the
look
Gen
at
Z's favorite.
we'll see about that.
If you look at all this, because you have, in terms of performance, of all these individuals, none has ever performed like Matiang'i in the dockets himself. And so I believe Kenyans are looking for somebody who's going to do something to change their living standards and their environment.
How do you tell the potential of a good performer while he's still in the terrace? You tell the potential of that performer once the person takes the stage. So he had his time at the Ministry of Education. He had his time at the Ministry of Interior, Internal Security. And we are doing the comparisons and can tell you, yes, he's a man who desires to cause some change, but the only problem is that the change that he wants, not the change that is desired by the masses. And when you talk about the masses, remember the government is the people. So if the people cannot tell you nothing, then it means you lack the vital thing that constitutes a leader. So Matiang'i is not the type of a guy. We have Kalonzo Musyoka, who is a good guy and a nice one.
They say good guys don't get the girls.
Yeah, because one thing, the girls want security. They want they want somebody who is principled, you know, because the way he's been wavering to an extent when he became now the watermelon, unfortunately, is because he's here, he's there, he wants this, he doesn't want. Those changes.
If you get the combination of Rigathi Gachagua, Matiang'i, Kalonzo Musyoka, isn't this
the fella who gets the girl is one who tells the girl the truth, and is one who stands on the rights of the girl. So the slightest provocation, you're there to defend your girl. That girl feels secure, and that is what the society feels when at the mention of the name Rigathi Gachagua, because he spoke things that mattered to them. Because when he spoke about tea, he spoke about tea in Kericho, Vihiga, wherever. When he spoke about farmers or sugarcane farmers, it's Western, Kisii, and other areas that have sugarcane. You talk about coffee, you go all the way to the coast, go to Kambani, go to the Rift Valley, go to parts of Nyanza, you find coffee. So whatever benefit that was to come is only that sometimes sometimes or most of the times, he would say it from Mount Kenya, which for a moment I don't see it as a problem, because you say something where the majority of those who are actually affected by it are.
I'm very sure if you asked Mulamba about Rigathi Gachagua,
allow me, because I'm still coming to analyze the Gen Z, the ill-advised Gen Z's choice, because nobody likes mentioning the name of the Gen Zs. They are our children, and I have a son who is a Gen Z. But I tell him, boy, you may have read the books of history, but you've not seen the history. If you sit down with those who've seen the history and what you've read from the history, then you'll be able to do an evaluation of what kind of a leadership of a nation you want to have. The other day, we were seated here, and I asked them, who managed your platform? No, we went to read the platform, and we followed, we were guided. Until some two elderly guys, aged guys, came out who are civil activists. And they said, you know, we had agreed that these demonstrations begin at 8 and end at 5. So I'm calling off the strike, and I'm asking you, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to where we came from. Tomorrow morning we meet. What does that tell you? He has power. He's part of the team that was doing it. The other day we saw Jimmy Wanjigi coming out, and the Gen Zs, when they talk about Okiya Mtata, I don't appoint him because you're the loudest. Because had they known the kind of business that civil activists do, if I pick up a case and it's against the government, there are organs out there, outside this country, that fund such people, you know, or such cases. We've seen political activists who are there to push certain agenda. Yes. Yet the agenda is not Kenyan. It's actually furnishing the foreign policies of other countries. Yes. And they're funded, and they do this. Yet we get to a point of thinking that, hey, we are not anything close to what we ought to be. You will listen to guys calling themselves that they are so transparent, and they are funded from out there to show how Kenya is so corrupt, but they cannot talk about corruption that takes place in California and the drug business that takes place in such a place, because that's where the funding is coming, or any other country. I think it is time Kenyans stand as Kenyans and as Africans and make choices, and well-informed choices. I would also ask the Gen Zs, because it's a raising concern, not because of him. As a matter of fact, we have kids. I keep cautioning this young generation, please, don't think that you're the standard. Because the people you think you're disqualifying, they were also a standard of others before. But they had to calm down and listen to what they have, so that they can add to what they think they can bring in to the table, and come up with a better concoction. And that's what I'm asking in the Gen Zs, that if you have the capacity in terms of intelligence, and you lack the capacity in terms of resources to implement your intelligent agenda, then you will find somebody who has ready resources, you know, and that person might be a foundation from out there that does not even care about you. There's an agenda that is meant to be here. So once they understand these things, the Gen Zs will now be able to invite people, not to tell them, but to reason with them. If God himself, the creator, is asking the creation, you come reason with me, who is the Gen Z? They should learn to invite people who have been there, listen to their nonsense, and add to the nonsense they have heard their sense. Then see what they can come up with. If at all what comes from your father or your elderly people is nonsense. It's time that the Gen Zs, and I'm advising them, it's time they call upon, they have these conferences, not just for the youth. We can be as blind as any other partner. Because if I ask a Gen Z, a young person in marriage, to advise another young person going different challenges in marriage, these two people will say, wacha tuwe. Kwa sababu mimi nasikia amenifika hapa na huyu amefikwa hapa. Those people cannot help each other. We need people who will tell you, shut up and watch and wait. These are the kind of things that sometimes that happen. You know?
We have shut up, watched and waited as Kenya was being raped left, right, from one rapist to the next. We've shut up and watched as successive presidencies and successive leaders from one to the other, I should call them misleaders, have misgoverned and misruled Kenya from one century to the other. We cannot afford to shut up anymore. We are here. We do not claim to have the monopoly of wisdom or knowledge of politics or of any other thing for that matter, of the constitution. We understand that we need better governance.
And remember, I've said all that with love.
And Kenya needs better governance. We are at a consensus with our older brothers, who are our fathers, uncles, relatives, friends, acquaintances, and colleagues, that we need better governance. And we must get that, because it is non-negotiable. It is our future that is on the line. It is our stakes that we are betting on.
Absolutely.
If this country continues to be misgoverned by corruption, by impunity, by extrajudicial killings, we will not have a country in the next 20 years. It is not a far-fetched possibility to have Kenya disintegrate to a civil war. It is not a far-fetched possibility, because we have a tribal country that has not healed from the tribal occurrences of the past and from the evils some tribes and communities feel were meted on them just because they belong to a certain tribe. We have a people who feel we've had our land grabbed by the government and by those that are in government, and they have a personal vendetta against them. We have people that have lost court cases against the government that feels those that had the power back then influenced injustice to be meted upon them. We have a country that has not healed from corruption issues, from tribal related violence, and a country that desperately wants constitutionalism and wants better governance. And so that is why the Gen Zs come in.
At this time, what kind of a leader does the country need to, because I believe leadership comes to create an environment where solutions can be provided for,
the Gen Zs,
and lead people.
The Gen Zs, young as they might be, have set such a high standard for leadership in this country.
But some of the Gen Zs who've gone into parliament have just become rogues.
Well, they are adopted to a system that has so many rogue thieves. If you have 10 friends who are thieves, you would closely be the next thief. That is what the problem is. Unless we inundate parliament with young people who have a strong conscience and who have a strong will to fight for the rights of Kenyan citizens and to do right by their conscience. Any other youth we take to leadership positions filled with thieves and pigs will become the other pig. That is where the problem is. See why Kasmuel is now finding himself in a hard position to advance the interest of the Gen Zs at the ODM party, because he's found his match. He's found 1 million people who are willing to tell him what to say. That is the same thing they are doing to Eric Murithi, who is the CS Agriculture. You would ask yourself, why would a young fellow, as intelligent as Murithi is, lie to the entire nation that we need a task force to tackle the rat and snail menace at the rice plantations? You would understand it is an agenda pushed by someone else. That tells this young man, you need to set up a committee, you need to set up a task force. And we already know what should be done with rats and with snails. And you understand the president is obsessed with setting up committees. He has already set up a 129 working member committee to review the new funding model of the universities. And you understand that is something that could be amicably solved between the stakeholders involved without needing a committee. So we have Gen Zs and young people who've got into positions of leadership and have been besieged and beleaguered by a myriad of other leaders who want to control them, to kill the narrative that you can push for an end to corruption, that you can push for zero tolerance to impunity, and so on and so on. They want to control the young people's voice, and that is why I'm rallying the young people to vie in the huge numbers. And we are not going to use the established political parties. We'd rather have our own, because we have understood that all the political parties would not want us on the ballot. They do not want us unless they can control you. They want Kasmuel now because he has bowed down to the pressure. He has said, oh, Baba Raila Odinga, you are our father. Oh, Baba Raila Odinga, I'm going to challenge you. And he has bowed down to the pressures from that party, and I am assuring you he's not going to counter anything from that party. If he sees impunity in that party, he's not going to speak. If he sees harassment in that party and intimidation, he will not speak. If he sees any evil in that party, he will not speak about it, because he knows they are doing him a favor in giving him, say, a parliamentary seat
at the table.
And if they decide to give him a ticket for a parliamentary seat, that is a favor to him. And we are saying the government and those that own the political parties should not be doing favors to the young people. We are not here to be dished favors for. I mean, we are here by our own right, and we know what we want, and we do not want favors from nobody. We just want better governance, better political parties that function, and a better country for all of us, for ourselves and for the generations after us.
Maybe if I can clarify.
Very short, because we are out of time.
If we can clarify what I meant with the Gen Zs, and that's why I want to be very candid with this, is that the power of any society lies in the youth. If you want to run a business effectively, you need the youth around you. You need to do agriculture, you need the youth around you. You need security, defense, you need the youth around you. Anything that even leadership, the current leadership is supposed to be grooming a youth for tomorrow, you know, to take over. The only problem is, when we get to a point like now where we are with our Gen Zs, who feel that they cannot be advised or take any advice from anyone, and so they will build their own empire and begin to rule from there, rule the other country from their own empire or their own paddock. It does not work like that. That is burning your own country before you realize that you are also suffering from this. Now, they have a lot that they can do with themselves. And a wise child sits with an elderly person. Of course, I know that he does not have to be right in all that he has done to the far that he has come. But he must have learned some mistakes that he did, which he feels, had I had the power, I would have corrected. Now, the person who has the power is the one who is sitting next to him. That person sitting next to him, if he doesn't know that he has the power, you know, to correct the past, he will begin to build a new Kenya. And that's what the Gen Zs think they can do, to build a new Kenya and a new thing, a whole new party, which is going to be run by the same political party system. You see, you're not sorting anything. What you're trying to say is that even if they form their new political party, it will need money, it will need what? It will need all the rules that have been set by the political party system. If you want to correct it, then find the mistakes that are there in the systems, in the laws that actually govern political parties, form a political party, if you want to make it a youthful political party. You understand? But if you form again a youthful political party to fight against the parents, like we were asking, so you want all the elderly people to vacate office so that the youth can occupy. Okay, your father is at 50. Okay, are you agitating for your father's, deployment? Sacking, so that or retirement, so that another youth can get employed? No. Because that's where you're still going to his own house to spend the night. Anyway, what you're trying to say is we need the youth, but we need them to sit down, we need them to calm down. They need to be advised. I don't think they had an idea of what civil society guys do. So when you hear somebody has shouted loudly, a wise person will tell you, please, when you hear somebody shouting the loudest, pull back a few steps and watch from a distance. Then do some evaluation of word for word that he speaks. Then you'll be able to understand where he's coming from and where he's heading. All right. That is my advice to the Gen Z.
2 seconds.
And with all love.
Yeah, 2 seconds. Your closing comments.
Could you allow me 1 minute?
I'm done. Yes, I'm done for time.
One, Okiya Omtata is a public advocate and a litigant, the best we have had. And he's been advancing the Kenyan interest from fighting punitive taxation to privatization of national assets. And that we have understood. And we've seen that he's been willing to bear the brunt of a brutal government against him. He has had 10 teeth pulled from him. He's even chained himself to Vigilance House. He's been beaten, he has had his skull fractured, he's gone through the trenches. And we understand that among the 10-member committee appointed is one for SAPA, Anifa, a friend to Boniface Mwangi, who I do not have a good liking for. I have everything bad and every bad feeling against Boniface Mwangi. Yes, we understand. Some of these activists are not doing Kenya any service. That I understand. I know some of these activists are paid by someone, and I will not mention names. And that we understand. But we've seen Okiya Omtata as a poor litigant and an activist who has not been funded by anyone. And unless we get substantial evidence to prove us otherwise. As it is, we have Okiya Omtata for us, by us.
Okay.
And as I finish, Fred, I saw this coming.
Yes.
And I prophesied, we will come a time when the young people will be set against their parents, against the older generation, because they would feel the older generations do not understand us, and they push different ideologies and principles from the ones who push, especially the principles on tribalism and the principles on corruption, on the zero tolerance. That is where we differ with our older generation. Yes. And I hope we will agree before 2027, because we must and we should. We cannot do this by ourselves, and they cannot do this.
I need to bring this time is
10 seconds if you can. We appreciate, we can condemn what we call tribalism, but there is negative and positive tribalism. Kenyans are being advised by people out there that belonging to a certain tribe is a problem. They themselves are beleaguered by race. And today, they're the greatest advocates against tribalism. There's no problem with where one comes from. All that is needed is that I purposefully choose to love you for who you are, regardless of where you come from, regardless of what you stand for. If every other thing that we intend to do, we can do it in agreement. That's it. That's the Kenya we need.
I bring the curtains down on this show. Otherwise, Aisha. So we thank you very much for basically participating in the show. We need to pray for this country. Some of the things that are happening, they're like deja vu. We've been here before, and the direction they took us was not good. So we need to pray for this country, pray for the leadership, pray for every individual. And the church, I am so happy that the church is basically speaking so strong. And it should not stop speaking. We should not stop speaking, because we are the conscience of this society. When things start go wrong, God does not look at the people, he looks at us. Yeah. What are you guys doing? So we need to do something. We need to speak, and we need to pray. I think that's the only thing we can do in this country. So we bring the curtains down on the show. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Brady. Thank you, James. May the Lord richly bless you.
Amen.